This is music, and this is another episode of Songs from the Pukebox. Welcome to another episode of Songs from the Pukebox, the worst titled What's Spinning series ever, I admit that. In these videos, I share with you and talk about some of the things that I've been listening to over the week. This time I have a stack of CDs, so we better get down to business. Now, seeing that I kind of listened to Stand Up by Jethro Tull last week, I figured, you know what, I'm just going to listen to a bunch of Jethro Tull while I'm at it, because I do have a good number of CDs in my collection. So listen to this one, Songs from the Wood and Heavy Horses as well. And both of these are, I would say, they're quite folky. I would say it's kind of folk rock for the most part. Very good. I don't quite know which one I actually prefer. Probably Heavy Horses. So yeah, pretty good stuff. I also listened to from the early 80s. Very interesting. They kind of keep the core identity of their sound, but on this one you got much more like synth stuff going on. And I don't know if this might be heresy to all you Jethro Tull fans out there. I don't know what's a Jethro Tull fan called? A Tullhead? Jethbro? I don't know, but I kind of like this one better than these two earlier ones. I think these are earlier. I mean, they're still good, of course. I just said that, but I kind of just like the kind of updated, kind of synthy sound. I also got around to listening to Rock Island. This one I think is a bit more iffy. Again, I don't know what Jeth Bros think about this, but this one starts out, I would say, quite frankly, with some pretty lame rock songs, and for the most part, I find this uninteresting. Apart from the last three tracks, if we ignore the bonus tracks, the last three tracks are actually great. They're kind of have more of an epic feel to them, a bit more progressive in my opinion. Also got around to listening to this one again, Beast. The Broadsword and the Beast. I almost called it the Beast and the Broadsword, but it's Broadsword and the Beast. This one is very good. This is probably one of my favorites. I really like the song Beastie. That one is fantastic. And Slow Marching Band is great as well. Broadsword. So you kind of have Beastie and Broadsword. They're kind of the title tracks in a roundabout way. This one it's great. I love this album. Again, I don't know if it's heresy in Jethro world. The last Jethro Tull that I got around to listening to this time around was Stormwatch. This is another one that I really like and that I kind of prefer to their earlier stuff. Again, I like their earlier stuff. I don't give me that crap, whatever. So this one I like very much. The opening track, North Sea Oil, is great. Orion is a fantastic song too. I really like Warm Sporran. That one is a bit more, I think, on the semi-folky side, kind of pastoral or whatever you call it. And Old Ghosts, Something on the Move. I mean, there are so many great songs on here. So I don't know if this take on Jethro Tull is heresy in the world of Jeth Bros. I just like Jethro Tull, and I like the albums I like. and I like them as much as I like them. I don't know what the rules are, if there are any, and if there are rules, why? That's silly. Anyways, some Jethro Tull, and then something completely different, Kraftwerk, Man Machine. So this is a 6-track like a mini album or EP or something like that. I'm not sure. You have some classics on here, but with English vocals. So you got the Robots. That's a fantastic song. Metropolis is great. You got The Model, a classic. Neon Lights as well. And Kraftwerk, they're kind of known for being kind of, I guess, minimalists. But if you really listen to this, there are actually lots of layers, lots of melodies, and of course lots of synth layers on top of each other. And they sing in English, but I still think it's kind of cool here because they sing with such a thick German accent that it ups the cool factor almost to as much as it would be had it been the German language versions. But this, yeah, if you like electronic music and you're interested in it, what it sounded like before it turned into house and dance stuff, check out Kraftwerk. Great stuff. Melancholic, melodic, and kind of weird in a good sense. Up next, this one I have shown before, Link to Sigurd, Best of Tornado. So this is a compilation album. This is alternative rock meets noise rock. Sounds very 90s, although it's certainly not from the 90s. And the highlight here to me is the bass work and the kind of backing vocals by the bass player, because she has a very raw, emotional, just belting out the vocals. The singer, guitarist comes across very frantic, but I think that's kind of part of the artistic expression of this band. So the guitar playing is very frantic. It has quite of a twangy sound to it, and the guitar player is also the vocalist, and he sings with this high-pitched, desperate screaming, and it works very well. The drum work is very dynamic, so it's great music if you like alternative rock with some noise rock. My favorite song on here, and probably my favorite song by this band, is Teletastic Fake Show, which has some great, just raw backing vocals by the bass player. And the bass work itself is great too. So maybe there's even a slight hint of post-punk to it as well, but I think it's great if you like alternative rock. Up next, another compilation, Super Love, Greatest by Melwood. So this is a Danish rock band fronted by this guy, Michael Falk. And he ended up having kind of a successful solo career, singing epic ballads, I would say. But this is rock, early 80s, maybe even late 70s, but certainly early 80s, kind of new wave rock, post-punk rock. Some of the first songs on here have a slight punky feel to them without being punk songs. So for example, Kanonfød, Kold Krig, that means cannon fodder, Cold War. That's kind of, influenced by punk music, although it's not a punk song. Sidste Station, I think, is a great rock song with that kind of feel to it too. There's a song called CPR, but that's your social security number. So it's a critique of the digitalization of, I guess, identity management within the state. And of course, this is from the early 80s. So things have become much more digitalized. You also do have some ballads on here that I don't care that much for. There is Mød mig i mørket. That's not a ballad, that's a rock song, which was probably the biggest hit this band had. It's pretty catchy. Then, they kind of went on hiatus, and then in the 90s, they kind of got back together and did some albums, I think. So some of those are represented on here. There's a song called Spøgelser, which means ghosts, which is a nice, catchy rock song. There's another song called Gorilla med guldøl. Gorilla with a guldøl, that means golden beer. That's a very, very strong beer. So that's a bit of a hard rock song. There's a cover version of Hey Hey My, which I think isn't great, but whatever. And like I said, you also have some ballads on here that I don't care for. But overall, it's not a bad listen. These guys were big on the local scene back in the day. I kind of get why. It's quite simple, their music, but it's catchy. And Michael Falk, the vocalist, has a quite raw and more kind of emotional way of singing, and he's known for that. So there you go. Some more Danish music. Speed Freak Jive by Nerve. This is, as far as I understand, kind of either a side project or a kind of a follow-up band or whatever, but it was a band that features, I think, the vocalist from the hard rock band Sandman. This is very 90s sounding alternative rock, and I kind of in isolation, each song is pretty good for sure. But when I listen to the entire album, I always kind of zone out, and that happened this time as well. So, but yeah, if you like a bit more stripped down 90s alternative rock, maybe you want to check this out. Like I said, it's an album that I can't really listen to from beginning to end. Because I get kind of bored, but a couple of songs at the time, or maybe just one song at the time, that works for me. So, the perfect medicine for that, Handled with Care by Nuclear Assault. One of my favorite thrash metal albums of all time. There's no weak song on here. It starts out with a song called New Song, which is just a fierce crossover thrasher. You have Critical Mass, which is probably my favorite song by Nuclear Assault. Surgery is fantastic. Emergency kicks ass. You got some more fun stuff like Funky Noise and Mother's Day. The last song here, Mother's Day. It's not the last song on the album, but that's Trail of Tears, which is great too. But Mother's Day is a bit more of a grindcore song. You have F Sharp Wake Up, which I love too. The chorus just makes you want to go wake up. So When Freedom Dies. I mean, all the songs on here, in my opinion, even the kind of fun and silly ones, are fantastic. This truly is a thrash metal masterpiece. Fierce, aggressive, and it has kind of a unique bass tone, which I really like about it. And I love the vocals. I don't think the vocals are for everyone, but I absolutely love them. There's nothing about this album I don't like. So that was the perfect kind of antidote to the Nerve album, which is not bad, I have to say. It's just not my cup of tea. And the songs individually fine. The entire album gets a bit boring, but not Nuclear Assault, Handled with Care. I can listen to this album a million times, which I probably have, and never get bored. And up last, Obscura, Cosmogenesis. So we started with Jethro Tull, progressive rock band, kind of folk rock, and later on kind of 80s progressive rock. This is progressive death metal, so there is kind of the strands are getting tied together. But this is probably very challenging to a lot of people. You got a fretless bass, you have lots of blast beats, you have technically advanced guitar playing. The songs are complex in structure. You got really guttural growled vocals, and then you have lots of Cynic worship. Cynic is a great progressive metal band. They started out being a death metal band, and then a progressive death metal band, and then kind of a progressive metal jazz band. there's lots of cynic worship on this album. You can hear it in the guitar figures and all that stuff. Also death worship, for sure. There's one song. Let me see if because I can't remember what the title is. I think it's Incarnated. That's a love letter to death. And the opening track, Anti-Cosmic Overload, starts out with a weird bass figure and then just pummels you with lots of blast beats, but also lots of melody and lots of impressive musicianship. So this is probably outside of Death and Cynic and Pestilence and Atheist, this is probably one of my favorite progressive death metal albums, and probably also one of my favorite progressive music albums as such. So there you go. I hope I didn't step on too many Jethro toes. I do like Jethro Tull. That should be obvious from this video. I just prefer maybe the 80s stuff a bit more to the earlier stuff, but I still like the early stuff. Anyways, that's enough of me. Thanks for watching.